But let's keep having that conversation about representation, what a real estate lawyer can do, because in this city we have a lot of growth, and we have a lot of need for new houses, and a lot of those new houses are being developed by companies that have developed acres of lands of new houses.
Right.
And then what you find is that home buyers are getting to contracts with these builders, who then in turn make their own contracts, have their own lending, and could potentially get into what's called steering, where they try to entice these buyers to only use their products, their lender.
Right. Right.
What's your experience in this industry?
A whole lot.
Yeah.
So one of the most important things for buyers to understand when it comes to new build is 99.9% of the time they're drafting that contract on the builder side.
Right.
Right.
So if the buyer gets into a contract with the builder, it protects the builder.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So what they need to make sure of is that a real estate lawyer goes and reads those contracts. We do that all the time just to make sure that when they going into the transaction, they understand what they're getting
So every
into.
builder has a different contract?
They do.
So if you, one from Lennar, D.R. Horton, Dean, David Weekley, all these would have a different.
They do.
Oh man.
Interestingly, they're different,
Yeah.
but just as dangerous.
Yeah.
The same in that sense, right? Because they all have their own attorneys that draft up what they think is the best protections for their client, and so they're going to be different. But on a basic level, they are all going to protect the builder and very much not protect the buyer.
Right.
And a lot of the clauses that we see in there are very scary things. Let's go through those real quick.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
The builder many times will draft in a clause that doesn't give them a definite date of completion. You saw that a lot during 2020. You saw that a lot during COVID, because they were afraid of the prices, right, of lumber and things like that.
Right.
And so they will build that in there. Well, we can just kind of finish when we need to. If more time is needed, then we will do this. It's not a breach of contract.
Right.
You know, and in addition to that, they will add in termination clauses. It says, well, if the cost of lumber and such is, or if it's financially unfeasible for us to build this house, we can terminate this contract at any point. In the meantime, your buyer's spending money on a place to live while they're waiting for the build to finish.
They paid for upgrades.
They've paid for
That
upgrades.
they have to pay in advance.
They've paid earnest money that's locked in at that point, right? And while the builder can just go ahead and terminate when they feel like it, right? And a lot of times too, they will build in no remedies for the buyer.
Yeah.
They will slash DTPA sometimes appropriately or inappropriately. So there's a certain clause that needs to be in there to properly slash the DTPA, which is misrepresentation.
What's the DTPA?
So that's called the Deceptive Trade Practices Act, which is our misrepresentation statute here in Texas. That's really scary. That if something is done intentionally, then the buyer can get triple damages.
Right.
So smartly
I see.
the builders will slash that, and there's a certain clause you have to put in to actually adequately do that.
Yeah.
And there's some requirements to actually be able to waive DTPA. Very
So
high.
by waiving or slashing, that means they can do that.
Right. That means that it gets rid of probably the most powerful statutory remedy for a buyer as against a builder.
And then it's
who
in a contract.
misbehaves.
It's hidden in the contract, and you can find it.
Well, if it's hidden, then
Yeah.
it's not done appropriately. So it takes me back to what the requirements are for waiving a DTPA in a contract are high. It has to be a certain font. It has to be bolded. A lawyer has to be involved. So there's a lot of requirements to waive that DTPA claim. But they will still try, and some of them are better at others in doing it appropriately. So it's still dangerous when you see any kind of waiver in there for what's called the DTPA is what we call it acronym-wise.
Right.
Because that's them getting rid of a very, very heavy statutory right for the buyer. So these are just some of the things that I see builders do. A lot of times.
Can I give you a scenario? You tell me if this is likely to be true or not true.
Okay.
Buyer gets into a contract with a new build and pays the funds for the upgrades and everything, and they give them a projected time of when the house will be done. And then interest rates are so good at that time that the client can easily afford it, right? A year later, house is not done. almost getting to 2 years later. Interest rates had gone up, and of course they can't lock in their interest rate until like they're, I think, 60 days out of closing. And so this client is under the buyer's under the other perception that the builder is stalling in order to price out the buyer. And because we had changed the email threads of pressuring them, the houses next to them are being built even though they got in contracts afterwards. So we had this conversation, and we almost had to get a lawyer involved because of this. But we put so much pressure on them that they ended up working out. But would you say that's more likely to be true or not true?
True. And I will say especially true during COVID.
Yeah.
What the builders were getting into contractual agreements before COVID got crazy. And as everyone knows, when COVID hit, all the supplies and everything got more expensive. The market blew up.
Right.
So builders were starting to see dollar signs.
Yeah.
And so if they could delay the build either to scram the buyer out to make them want to terminate. The buyer may even do it voluntarily. I saw that a lot too.
Yeah, a lot of them just like,
the buyer goes, well, it's been 2 years now. I need a place to live. I can't, so they would put them into these situations. And of course the contract, was perfect for it. And so the buyer was capable of terminating at that point, and it, helped the builder.
So you would agree that was a strategy.
That was a thing. Yes.
Man, that's kind of scary.
Yeah, it was really, really ugly.
And it was horrible because, this client waited almost 2 years.
Right.
Spent a lot of money, a lot of time, a lot of energy, a lot of mental distress of thinking about this over and over and over again for like 24 months.
Right.
Oh, man.
And it's sometimes the builder would on purpose, right, do this because that means that if that contract failed and was terminated, then it allows them to go and get under contract for a higher price. So that was the biggest mission for builders at the time. And we see a little bit of it still now, but the market is changing. So the relationship between the builder and buyers are a little different these days. But at that time, and we may still see some remnants of it here and there, that's what their main goal was. It was probably less expensive for the builder at that time to breach their contract if it is even breachable. Like I said, a lot of times there are open clauses on finish dates. It was less expensive for them to just do the one remedy that's in the contract, which are many times just return the earnest money.
Yeah.
Which is what, 50 to 60,000 sometimes.
And hopefully they don't say anything.
And then, but they may have even gotten rid of their remedies. The buyer, like I said, those contracts don't even give the buyer the opportunity to get any other real remedies or damages. You can argue those things, and maybe there's a chance, right, to win that in court.
Yeah.
But they've just lost 2 years of time.
Right.
They're getting their $50,000 or $60,000 back, and then are ready to walk away, and are probably not looking to spend any more litigation funds on the thing that already delayed them and cost them a lot of money already. And builders are relying on that. And so it's less expensive for them to just breach or not breach, as I mentioned earlier, and terminate or cause a termination, right? I saw both sides.
Yeah.
So that then they can put it on the market for $200,000 more.
Right. And that's what I think what was happening, because these buyers got in a contract at such a great price, and within 2 years, the appraisal value was already like almost not double, but 50%.
Significantly more. Yes.
Wow, we can go all day on this. Seems like you have a lot of experience, and it's kind of scary to know that these things were really happening, because we were out in the field doing this, but I would give the benefit of the doubt to the builders, but hearing it from you sounds like it was very common.
Right. And now I think people need to realize when they're going for a new build home, they need to get their contract looked at.
Yeah. So that's what you would recommend.
Right. Absolutely.
Okay.